As we continue to highlight stories of Planet Startup volunteers here in our Planet Startup Stories, we have with us today a Planet Startup volunteer. Right now, he is in his sophomore year in New York University Stern School of Business. He's majoring in finance and economics. So he's going to talk about his volunteer experience with Planet Startup throughout his high school years. Welcome to Planet Startup Stories, Pedro Kauffman. Hi, Pedro.
Hi, Lev. Thank you for having me.
Right. We're so happy also to have you with us today. Yeah. And so we're excited to learn about your volunteer experience with our organization. Right. So to start off, what are you doing right now? Aside, of course, from now you're in your sophomore year in NYU Stern.
Yeah, so right now I'm rising sophomore, going second year at NYU Stern, as you said, and I am currently studying finance and economics, and that's a little bit, about my
Mhm.
school experience.
Are you doing volunteer experience on the side as well, or just focusing in your studies right now?
So I'm mainly focusing on my studies, but if anything shows up or if Dr. Jared needs help or anything like that, I'm always in contact with him. So uh, yeah, I'm always open to volunteering as well.
All right. Now, can you take us back to your 3-year volunteer experience with Planet Startup when you were in your high school years back in Florida? So, how did you start volunteering and what made you decide to volunteer?
Yeah. So yeah, going back to I guess 2018, 2017. In high school we have to do some type of volunteering work. We need like a certain requirement of hours, and a lot of people just do just regular. So they do like, for example, they go ahead to a homeless shelter and do like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, which is
Mhm.
something important, right?
Yeah.
That's obviously very important. But for me, like I wanted to spend like my all that volunteering hours doing something that like I was like actually interested in and like a passion of mine. So and one of those passions was entrepreneurship. So when Dr. Jug came to North Broward he gave a presentation. I reached out to him and we exchanged some emails and I started volunteering for Planet Startup.
Mhm. So, what was the name of your school there in Florida? Which
Yeah,
high school are you
it was North Broward Preparatory School in Coconut Creek, Florida.
Okay. And you found out about this volunteer opportunity directly through the Planet Startup website, or you went through the nonprofit, like the nonprofit organization website, like calling for volunteers?
No, so yeah, so what happened was that I think we had a club in school called Volantis Business Club, and we had done, I don't remember specifically what we did, um, but then Dr. Gerald came to my school to give a talk because of the club in association with the club,
Mhm.
and then I was just I was amazed by the work the Planet Startup was doing, and I was like, I want to help, that's something that's a passion of mine. I also really like entrepreneurship, and that's going to fulfill my volunteer credit. So I said, I want to help. I want to join the organization. I want to volunteer, and that's a little bit how I got involved.
Yes, and to our listeners, Planet Startups home base is basically in West Palm Beach in Florida. And Dr. Gerald, he had several initiatives there with local high schools. And so when you made that connection with Dr. Gerald, what actually, you said that you were impressed with Planet Startup. So to be specific, what, like what was in this, or what's in the Planet Startup advocacy that attracted you to the organization, or like in a way motivated you to, hey, this is something that I want to do, I want to get involved, I want to volunteer.
Yeah. So for me, I think that Planet Startup is special, and it was
Mhm.
special for me back then too because it dealt with entrepreneurship and teaching kids, young adults, or even adults at some point, entrepreneurship skills in underprivileged areas of the world, and that's something that really stuck out because um, you know that's very important because if you teach entrepreneurship skills, people now have the skills to go out and create business by themselves and, leverage their own skills to make money for their community and to raise the standard of living. So
Mhm.
I feel like that's a very noble pursuit, and that's what stuck out to me.
Right, right. And that time, okay, when you decided to volunteer, what kind of work was offered to you, or what was the scope of your volunteer work?
So at that time, I'm not sure if any work was offered to me. I was really
Mhm.
just reaching out saying, I want to be part of something. And then, I think Dr. Gerald, he started giving me a little bit of work here and there. He gave me like this list of people. I vaguely remember like giving me a list of people to
Mhm.
email after he went to a conference, saying to reach out. And I followed up with those people, and then from there started giving me more work, and then until like I became part of the organization. And yeah, that's a little bit of from what I remember, starting off with.
So events and networking. So you
Yeah,
had
yeah,
the opportunity to connect with Planet Startup beneficiaries, donors, other stakeholders. Yes,
yeah,
yeah, and I think that is you know for student volunteers who would love to volunteer with Planet Startup. So we would like to stress out that there are several volunteer opportunities, be it getting involved in fundraising or also connecting with the beneficiaries in Africa, and also multimedia if you want to help out with a website and even social media campaigns. So there are various opportunities. And like what you did before, so I guess this was in the area of events management, communication, networking, where you have the opportunity to directly get in touch with the beneficiaries and say, for example, in Africa or in other countries?
yeah. Yeah, so multiple times I was in touch with like the local directors of
Mhm.
programs in Africa, and in Brazil specifically. That was one that I was like really, really involved in.
Mhm.
I was in touch with the local director there, and that's a lot of my work was, as you said, focused on, especially in the Brazil program, was focused on translating because I'm
Mhm.
originally from Brazil, so I had, I know how to speak Portuguese
Yeah.
fluently. So yeah, a lot of my work was translating. Documents and
Mhm.
reviewing work and helping out kind of the logistics of the program there.
Yes, yeah. We forgot to mention this early on in our interview. Pedro is originally from Brazil. And yes, Planet Startup, we have programs in Brazil with us, various communities that we're serving there. Right. And right now, you're doing finance and economics. Are you thinking on, going into the entrepreneurial, direction, perhaps after graduation, or even like right now while you're still studying?
Yeah, that's very much a possibility. I'm not sure like what I specifically want to do within the area, but yeah, I do have a passion for entrepreneurship, and yeah, I do consider entrepreneurship venture as maybe something I do after college, maybe during college. And we'll see.
Mhm. Are you like are you still in touch with or like currently are you in touch with youth organizations back in Brazil, especially those who are, advocating entrepreneurship?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm in touch with the group that we did the program in Brazil with.
Okay.
When we WhatsApp, sometimes they text in the group chat, and especially with the director, the on-the-ground director, there have been issues. Still in touch with him, and sometimes I hear from the students as well.
Mhm. What do you think are the current challenges being faced by the youth sector right now in Brazil? Those who want to go into entrepreneurship or challenges in terms of, job security, livelihood?
Yeah. So challenges surrounding Brazil and the youth. It's more along the parts of opportunity and the lack of opportunity. Um, and I felt like what Planet Startup does is
Mhm.
specifically fulfill that gap, if you will,
Yes.
because then Planet Startup kind of teaches the kids and the young adults the skills to provide the opportunity for themselves, to not be reliant on somebody else to offer them a job, but rather them being the ones that are creating jobs by creating their own businesses. So yeah, I feel like that was a really big challenge that we were fulfilling in Brazil. Yeah.
Yes, and to those who are with us in our podcast episode, if this is also like one good area to look into when you volunteer with Planet Startup, being involved with different cultures, different communities. You get exposed to, of course, like dealing with people, from different backgrounds, connecting with various stakeholders of different cultures. So it's a very good ground for learning, I would say, and especially for those who'd want to venture perhaps into international relations after they graduate, could be in various, sectors, education, business, or what. So I would highly recommend, you know, doing the Planet Startup volunteer experience. So how but like this your 3-year volunteer experience with Planet Startup, how did this impact your perhaps your choice of, or did it impact actually your choice of say college program or your future plans career wise?
Yeah, so I'd say it definitely impacted, my college choice because, um, for example, NYU is a very international school, if you will.
Mhm.
It has a lot of international students. There's a lot of study abroad programs, and working with Planet Startup and working with the international programs at Planet Startups, that gave me the perspective and kind of like the point of view to realize that having an international experience or yeah, international experience even in school is something that will help me with opportunities in the future. So that was definitely one of the factors that influenced me when choosing colleges, and that's directly linked to Planet Startup and the work I did.
Right, right. Yeah, the connection that you will make, yeah, or like you've actually made already, since you started, and right now you are still in touch with Planet Startup, and along the way, you are still in, of course, because you're still in communication with the Planet Startup management team, the leadership team. The connections that you will be making along the way, it will really prove to be very significant. Moving forward career wise, it will help you a lot. And it's so nice to hear about stories like this, similar to what Pedro experienced during his high school years up until now. He's still collaborating with the organization. So it's like his volunteer experience didn't actually end after he like after the 3-year volunteer experience, because he is still in touch with the community. Yes, and yeah, so what can you like any words of inspiration, I guess you would say, or encouragement, more on inspiration, I would say, to the students who would love to go into volunteering, like your previous experience. So how like, because there are we actually received some questions as well, like people like sending emails or through WhatsApp asking like, is it hard to do that, like a volunteer work, time management and all of that, and what skill sets do you actually need? I don't have any volunteer experience, I don't have any volunteer background, can you actually do that? So coming from you, okay, what can you tell them about getting into volunteering?
Well, when I got into volunteering for Planet Startup, it wasn't easy because I had to manage, that was school, and I was playing soccer at the time as well. So yeah, there was that time management um, side of things that wasn't
Mhm.
specifically easy. But it's definitely, if you like it and if you are fulfilled by it, that's the most important part. If you're fulfilled by it, then absolutely do it. Because at the end of the day, if you're fulfilled by doing something and you're happy by doing it, you should do it even if it's hard. So
That's true.
yeah. So yeah, and that applies to volunteering and specifically with Planet Startup as well. Because if you're passionate about the work and the message behind Planet Startup, then the challenge, the time management challenge, it's absolutely doable. And people should, if they want to get involved and they have initiative, then they should do it.
And how have the Planet Startup team, how have they supported you in your volunteer experience?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Dr. Gerald was key. I remember him writing multiple recommendation letters for me when it comes to like apply to colleges and like scholarship programs too. So I remember in high school in Florida specifically, there's this program called Silver Knights, and he helped me win an honorable mention in the award. By writing a letter and recommendation letter and providing supporting documents proving that I did the work. So yeah, so he was definitely key in a lot of parts of my life as well.
Yeah. Now, so in closing, I just want to know, like, are you eyeing on other volunteer opportunities? Having experience doing volunteerism with Planet Startup, what other perhaps volunteer opportunities that you're looking into in the near future?
Yeah. So I'm not really sure about any opportunities in the near future. But working with Planet Startup definitely opened my eye to the benefit that volunteering work can do. Specifically when it's like targeted and purposeful. That type of volunteering work that Planet Startup is, I would consider very purposeful because it has a mission behind it and it has that sense of creating businesses to help communities. So using entrepreneurship to help communities, and that's something that's powerful and purposeful. And when you do volunteering work with a purpose like that, then I think that's when you do the real good. That's when you help the most.